Welcome to Below the Surface. I'm Paul Balsam. Before I became a fractional CMO in the water industry, I spent over a decade owning and running a water tech company. That experience is the reason I started the show, to have the kinds of conversations I'd wish I had access to when I was in the seat. This is the podcast for water industry professionals who want to think differently about how this industry grows, communicates, and competes. If that's you, you're in the right place. My guest today runs a company called Vitendo. It means teach in Swahili, and his whole business exists because of a problem almost every utility manager in the country is losing sleep over. The most experienced people in the building are retiring, and now 20, 30, and 40 years of knowledge is walking out the door with them. Joseph Blackman spent years selling heavy equipment to municipalities, and he saw this cliff coming, and now he's trying to do something about it. Join me in a conversation with Joseph today on the podcast. Joseph, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Sure thing, man. Good to be here. Good to kind of be on the other side of the podcast and spectrum being interviewed, but looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. So we've only talked one other time.
That's all it takes.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me like how you got here and what you're doing.
Well, the dirty and the quick, to make a short story long, got in the industry about 8 years ago, and I got in the industry selling Vector trucks, the big combination trucks. And I noticed one like interwoven component throughout my time, selling the trucks was that a lot of people who knew everything within a city department or a utility, they're retiring. They're looking at retirement. And I was like, it's unfortunate that like the people who know everything are leaving, and then the people who they're bringing in, like they're having trouble getting them up to speed as quick as possible. And then another thing I noticed was that nobody really celebrated the people in public works or public utilities. Everybody talks about fire and PD and, as first responders, but they didn't really talk about the guys and girls who were making sure the water gets to our homes, the water, the wastewater leaving our homes, it actually leaves. And so that's where I started kind of the two components of what I do, which is the podcast, Public Works Podcast, and then also Vitendo Training Solutions, where I take knowledge from the people who have it, give it to the people who want it. I take that the person who's staring down the barrel of retirement, they got 4.5 days to go, or 4.5 years, or 4.5 months. And I say, what are all your best practices? What are all the things that you know at this utility that the next generation should know? Capturing all that institutionalized tribal knowledge and putting it on video, and then disseminating it and democratizing it so where everybody else can learn from it instead of just being in that one person's head. So that's pretty much who I am. That's what I do. Yeah.
It's an awesome idea based on what I know about Vitendo. Before we get into that, I've read some things about you about a Kilimanjaro trip. Tell me more about that and what brought that about and kind of how that helped you in your career.
Yeah, Kilimanjaro was, I think every young man, or even women, but men, and, we have these moments in life where we kind of go, like, what is life? Like, where am I going? What am I doing? I remember I had an opportunity where I had a little bit of time and a little bit of money. And that's kind of a dangerous recipe for people who don't have any direction. So I say, you know what? I'm either going to, hike the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, which is the trail, if you don't know it, it's from Mexico to Canada. You hike all the way through, the United States. You start at Mexico, you take about 5 months, and you go to Canada. And it takes about 5.5 months to do, and it, might cost you around $4,000 or $5,000 with like having a restock, and you got to make sure your life is going while you're on the trail. And so I had an opportunity to do that or climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So I opted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro because it was only going to take 5 days and not 5 months, and it'd probably be around the same price. But that was a moment where I'm like, you know what, I want to do something to where, because I had a business failure and I was in a point in life where I'm like, man, do I really want to start another business? Do I, want to just have a job? Like, what am I looking to do? And I wanted to show myself that I could accomplish something that was big, that's larger than life. That's something that make people go, ooh, and ah, like, to be honest, and make myself go, yeah, I did that. And so, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in 5 days, it allowed me to the proverbial, go to the mountaintop and read the scrolls and figure out the rest of your life. And that's where, with some talks with my mentor, he said, find an industry where you can play a long-term game with long-term people. Instead of finding an industry or job where, it's super transactional, you sell to somebody once, you never see them again. And so, the whole public utility, public works industry stuck out to me, and that's where I applied, and that's where I eventually got the job at. But it's, the average sales cycle can be a year and a half, 2 years sometimes. And the relationships, like you and I will see each other 10 years from now on a trade show floor, we'll dap it up and, how's the wife and kids, all that, because again, like we're going to be in this industry for a long time. And that's what, that Kilimanjaro moment kind of, steered me towards, is that, hey, you can do, you're capable, you're able, and then also like, play a long-term game.
Bit of a vision quest. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
I could ask you a lot more questions about that, but we
can talk about it, man.
We'll go back
Nobody
to Vitendo.
asked me about that.
Well, let's do it then. That's something I would love to do.
Do it.
It's kind of been on the list. I love getting out and being active.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about the Kilimanjaro experience?
Well, so Kilimanjaro is 19,000 feet in the air, 19,001 feet, and that's the summit. So to kind of backtrack, my wife and I were hiking in the Sierra Mountains, just out of Lake Tahoe, and it was around 10,000 feet where we're at. And I had it's this thing called food associated exercise induced anaphylaxis, to where if you see people with peanut allergies or like a crustacean allergy, how they have anaphylaxis, they sweat, they pass out, all that happened to me. Just imagine being in the Sierras, no cell phone service, not a road within 10 miles, pass out. Wife somehow gets a hold of a helicopter helivacs me out of the Sierras. I go to the hospital and I realize, I'm like, man, am my days of hiking and backpacking done? Like, is it elevation? Like at the time, we didn't know what it was from. We thought it was just elevation and like, the body not responding well to being that high in the air. And so again, like the Kilimanjaro, I was like, you know what? I have to be able to do this again, because I want to show myself and show my body that like we can go in elevation and perform and do all that. And so, again, like I knew Kilimanjaro was higher than the Sierras. I'm like, okay, well, if I do Kilimanjaro, then I should be good in the rest of the world. Because at the time I was, been to 20 something countries, and I love traveling, love backpacking, love hiking, love doing all that. And so Kilimanjaro, I signed up there. You have to have a Sherpa, it's a company or companies out there in Kenya that they or Tanzania that take you to the mountaintop. It's what do you call it? It's a national park out there. So you have to have a guide. Yeah. And so I hired a guide, and they said, okay, when do you want to do it? I said, April, because that's when I have the time. And they said, April's the worst month to do it. They said, your chances at summiting probably go down from like 60% to like 30%. And I'm like, okay, it's even more of a challenge. And they say, well, what route do you want to do? And I said, I forgot the name of the route, but it was the 5-day route. Okay, like now your chances go down even more, because it's supposed to be a 7-day or an 8-day. Meaning for acclimatization, you go up, you come down, acclimatize, you go up more, you come down, acclimatize even more. Yeah. Then you go to the summit, acclimatize. They said 5 days, there's no acclimatization. And I've read all the articles and I've seen all the blogs and watched the YouTube channels of an ultra runner could do it in 1 day. Like these mountaineer dudes can do it in 2 days just by hiking and going straight to the top. And I said, why can't I do it in 5 days? And so that's where I said, okay, I'm gonna do the 5-day route, do it in April, which in April, the weather is terrible. It's snowy. And so snow, of course, that adds another component to it. Like, if I could show pictures, I'm in full on snowboarding gear. Like, the pants, the jackets, the gloves, the waterproof boots, all the layers. Whatever water I had in my camel froze. Like it was, that was the worst month to go. If you look at a lot of Mount Kilimanjaro summit pictures, it's dirt at the top. If you look at mine, it's snow flurries and like snowpack everywhere. And so, yeah. I mean, I think at the time, 2018, it cost like $1,600. Like, of course, you got to fly there, then you got to like lodge yourself there. But yeah, one of those experiences, I feel like if you're capable and mentally you've got a little bit of fortitude, you can do it. I mean, I've seen people in groups going up and I'm like, oh, these people ain't gonna make it. Or like this person ain't gonna make it, or this lady isn't gonna make it. And they made it, and like power to them, good for them. And so don't think that just because it's a huge mountain and it's, again, 19,000 feet in the air that you can't do it. It's a hike. It's not, you're not climbing, you're hiking. And so, that kind of takes the mystique out of it.
Yeah, my daughter really wants to do it. She's 13 now, so
Okay.
it's in the sights for the next few years, I think.
Dude, you should. I would love to take my children out there and do it. I don't know if my wife would allow me, but I'd love to take them out.
I've got some questions about your business, so
Sure.
let's go back to the Vitendo side. What does it look like inside of a small utility when one of their 30-year operators is about to retire? Like,
Yeah.
what's the, I guess, the legacy system for how that works?
Yeah. I'll answer it this way. So I go to a lot of corp yards. The corp yards are city yards where all the trucks and equipment's at. And we'll be shooting content. I'll be shooting a video on this truck, shooting a video on this truck, shooting a video on this process. And I'll say, hey, I see that piece of equipment in the corner over there. Are we going to shoot some content on that? And I usually get the same answer. Billy was the only person who knew how to operate that. And Billy's no longer with us. And so conceptually, that happens whether in a city yard, utility, wherever. But that same concept is that if there's a process that only one person knew how to do, and that one person isn't there, that process, whether it falls apart, that process doesn't get done. That process becomes a lot more expensive because you have to hire out a more pointed, subject matter expert for that process. And it's the same concept. Like, if you can't get that knowledge from the person who left, who knew how to do it, to the next person, that process is going to fall apart. And I feel like that's happened with all of our infrastructure around the country, is that it's falling apart because nobody knows how to operate it the first time. Like, imagine this. Like, let's say you're having an issue with your garage door, right? You fix your garage door. I guarantee that when Paul put his garage door back together, you put it together a little bit differently than the manufacturer did. And just imagine when the next person buys your house, they're going to look at it and go, wait, what did this last homeowner do? And then he's going to put it back together how he puts it back together. And the next homeowner is going to be like, what the heck is this? Who is touching this? Like, what is this about? And so it's the same thing with the equipment on in a water treatment plant or within a city yard, is that over time, this equipment gets its own personality. Like, when you first hopped in the truck, you would just turn the key. 10 years later, you got to clap 3 times and say a prayer and then turn the key, and hopefully it turns on. And if you can't tell the next person, here's what you do to get this thing started, then it's not going to get started and you can't do the process.
That makes a lot of sense. Why are those conditions worse in water and wastewater than in other industries?
Great question. I think I'll give a 2-part answer. I mean, I'm biased because I'm in the industry. I would say water is it's one of the most important things to human life besides air, right? So you have to have water, and it has to be done right. I mean, we see all the stories in the headlines of water that's not, that comes out brown, or, we got to run it for 3 minutes to let it, turn clear. Then we use it from there. So it's really important. So when it's not done right, like it can impact a whole community. And then B, I feel like water is in a place where it was so government subsidized or so heavy, like legislation wise, to where it wasn't necessarily, I hate to say it, but like, look at the post office. Like, it's not really ran that well because it's not necessarily responsible for a P&L. It's not responsible for turning a profit for shareholders. Kind of the same thing in water. They collect the rates, they put out decent water. They collect the rates, they put out good water. If there was a private company that had to, compete with the other water company in town for whatever customer wanted to put out water, then we would see these processes, these procedures, and the water be, and the quality of water go up because competition creates that. And so I'd say, taking it down to the workforce level is like the workers aren't as valued as like a lineman. If you think of a lineman who does the cables up above or sometimes below, they go to an apprenticeship program, and they know that when they come out of that apprenticeship program, they'll work the first couple of years doing this much. And then for the rest of their career, they're going to be making, $100, $150, $200,000, in their career. For water, you come in, you make 40, 50,000 in certain areas. By the end of your career, you're maxing out at 120, some in bigger areas, sometimes a little bit more than that. And so I would say there's not enough meat on the bone to get, our again, more competition in the industry to drive up that quality. I mean, you know how it is when more people are competing for a customer's eyeballs, competing for a customer's dollar, that product, that service, it automatically gets better and better.
I think it's also probably like based on what I've seen in the utility space, they're not hiring 1,000 employees like your typical office businesses, right? So there's just more of a delusion of that workplace knowledge that happens over the turn of 1,000 different employees coming
Yeah.
and going.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
there's just 3 of you and
Yeah.
there's one who's been there a long time, like when one person leaves, it's a huge share of the knowledge bank that's there in the workplace. And that's probably what we're feeling now is what I've seen is when a lot of these utility workers get the spot that they want, in a water utility or a wastewater utility, they tend to not leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. I see that all the time. Like how many departments right now, there's somebody, and whenever I give talks, I talk about the Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe dichotomy. Like we wouldn't have found Tom Brady until Drew Bledsoe went down. And it took one night for Drew Bledsoe to dislocate his finger for Tom to come in the game and do what he did, and now rest is history. Like how many Tom Brady's are behind a Drew Bledsoe right now to where they're a great operator. They want to do better. They want to learn more. They want to get, more certifications and more EDH. Like they want to improve their self to improve their output, but they're behind somebody who's, again, they're 2 years away from their retirement and they're just taking their victory lap. They're just, I wouldn't say mailing it in, but they're just doing the bare minimum. So nothing crazy happens until they can retire and then go off into the sunset. And again, in the private world, so you wouldn't see this happening.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I love the solution that you've come up with. Can you walk us through the Vitendo solution
Sure.
and what it is you're providing for your customers?
Sure. Yeah, it's again, it's a simple concept. If you ever been on YouTube to watch a video on how to fix or operate something that you own, that's what I create for utility. So all their best practices, all their institutionalized knowledge, all the tribal knowledge, everything that lead operator who's about to retire in 22 days, everything that he knows, I take all that, put it on video, and it's not a 45-minute long, 2-hour long video. These are 2.5-minute long videos, 90-second long videos of, hey, Billy, how do you operate this water pump? Or how do you check the lower bearing on this conveyor? And this could be a 2-minute long video. And now when somebody has that question, they can go into the Vitendo portal or go into the AI chatbot that comes with every Vitendo portal and say, here's my work order for today. I have to repair this bearing on this, doohickey or thingamabobber. They type that in. It gives them the answer. Plus it gives them the video of, the person 5 years ago who showed you how to do it from the manufacturer spec. And again, like, I feel like the exit interview is one of those lost arts in our industry. Like, most exit interviews, people are scared to do them because they don't want to hear about all the bad things that the agency does or the department does. But I said, no, let's flip it. Let's put them, sit them down and say, hey, tell us everything that you know that you wish everybody else knew. And you will get somebody open up like a butterfly. Tell us everything that you do on a day to day. And you'd be surprised all the little things that they do on the day to day that you didn't know that they did or didn't know that they had under their scope. And so again, I take all that content, I put it on video, I put it in software to make them be able to find it in 3 clicks or less. It comes with the AI component to where if you type in a question, you type in a spec, you type in a thought, it can give you the answer of what you need from the videos that we created. And then also QR codes. Everybody loves QR codes. I put them all around your plant, all around your city, all around your department. And those QR codes allow somebody to scan it with their iPad or iPhone and find the exact content for that video. Or for that process or product. Again, I'm just trying to take the knowledge that's already there, but democratize it and disseminate it across the department. Because again, you can walk into any corp yard and you look at the 4 or 5 people in there. One person holds the keys because they have all the knowledge. Just imagine if everybody else had access to that same knowledge that one person has.
I think it's a really cool idea and seems like a very cool solution to a problem that is or is going to hit everybody.
Yeah.
And every company I've ever worked with, usually when someone's leaving, we have them do what? Write a 50-page Word document about everything they know.
Yeah.
And then we just stow it away so that we feel better.
Yeah.
And then, we try to create some SOPs around that. Tell me why video is a better solution than that.
I tell people all the time, I said, even if you just recorded him or her on your iPhone and just put it in your C drive, like that's better than nothing. But I'll say this. So, I mean, you and I both can attest that if we could watch a 30-second long video versus read a one-page PDF, we're going to watch the video. Even again, if you're fixing something around the house and there's a 30-minute long video versus a 13-minute long video for that process, you're probably going to watch that 13-minute long video. So video is the way we all operate. Short form video is the way we all get our answers, get whatever information we need. And I say, why don't the most important, factors in our communities have this same concept? Like, why do they have to have a PDF, a binder that's covered in half-inch thick of dust sitting on some supervisor's bookshelf that only he has the key to that office? Like, that's where the SOPs are held at. Like, why can't this be on a cool platform to where just like Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, they can find that information on their mobile device? I like to format it to where you can watch a video, you can hit pause, right? Do part of the process, hit play, hit pause, do another part of the process, and then boom, you're done. You get right back to work. This isn't the 45-minute long video where you got to, try to find exactly the answer that you want. And again, like the video is how most of us operate, short form video.
So I've met with a lot of operators around the country. I wouldn't describe them on the whole as TikTok influencers. So how do you, when you're running a project, how do you get some of the people that you really need to star in these videos to open up a little bit?
Probably the hardest part, and I would say that's probably where a lot of deals, a lot of these projects just go into the, to the circular filing cabinet, because when they think, they go, okay, this is a great idea. We love it. We really want to capture all the knowledge that we have. We want to do it. But then they think, who's going to deliver this? Because old Billy, he don't want a camera in his face. Young Johnny, who thinks he's a YouTuber, he don't know anything, So I would say that is the biggest issue that I have, is just getting them to go, okay, here's what we're going to do. And here's who's going to do it. And there's plenty of tactics that I'll give a couple. And I'll say, well, hey, you're the boss. Like, you're the boss. Make this a part of their scope. If you want to do a barbecue at the end of this, I'll fund it. Let's do it. This is a part of their scope for this week. These 4 people, they're going to deliver these 50, 100 pieces of content, and they're going to do well at it, and they're going to love it. And they're just going to get it done. And then also, like, it's kind of like male ego. Like, we all want to be able to be immortalized in some way, shape, or form. We all want to write a book or make a video that just lasts the test of time and like gets passed down from generation to generation. So that's in everybody. We just have to find a way to pull that out. And if you go to the person who's 56 years old and he's retiring in a year, say, hey, you know everything about everything in this utility. You know everything about this water treatment plant. We just want to follow you around and grab whatever we can and just be a fly on the wall with your internal thinking, your stream of consciousness. And maybe somebody in the future can get something from that. Instead of saying, okay, we want you to be a YouTuber and put on your YouTuber voice and get a haircut and shave your beard and do all that, because, you'll lose them with that. But if you position it to where they can be that, that Obi-Wan and just, take somebody around the plant, say, this is what happens. Here's how it works. Here's how you operate this. By the 3rd video, man, I've had people just start rolling and rolling and rolling. You can't get them to stop because, again, they want to give back, but they've never been, I guess, approached in the way that makes them feel like they're of value instead of them just, putting into the plant.
So not only are you shooting video for Vitendo, but this is the original reason I wanted to have you on and have a conversation, was you are out there creating all sorts of content for Vitendo, for yourself, for the Public Works podcast, kind of just as like a water industry connector in general. Why did you decide to do that? When did you decide to do that? And why are you betting on social media as a driver? Sure.
2008, there's a class I took. I went to South Dakota State University. There's a class I took. It was a marketing 101 class. And this was like way before, like the video was like easy to do. And so we had to get those flip cams. They were like the vertical cameras, and they had the little jump drive that flipped out on the side. And you
Yep.
plugged it in. Okay, so you're familiar. And so we had to buy one of those, and we had to do like a vlog a week. And I played football, and so I'm like, oh, we got plenty of content. Me and the boys were kicking around. We're eating food. We're going to the cafeteria. We're going to practice. Like we're playing basketball or whatever. And so I was just shooting everything. And I could tell when I would shoot it, I started a blog. I still remember the URLs, jablackman225.blogspot.com. That was like the early Google blogger. And I would post the videos. This is early YouTube. This is before Facebook allowed video on Facebook. And I remember that next year it did. But yeah, I would shoot those videos, upload them to YouTube. And I remember just going to the computer lab because the computers, like it's funny, like you had a laptop, it wasn't fast enough to do like video, but the computers in the computer lab where everybody was at, those could do video. So I remember going down there and just keep refreshing the videos. And it'll go from like 2 views to like 10 views to like 30 views. And they max out around like 60 views. But like, I kind of got addicted to like shooting content and like creating video. And then 2 years later, I graduated. I got home, back in the Bay Area, and I bought a camera and I bought a Mac. I bought a Mac, a 27-inch Mac, and then I bought a Canon 7D, which is like the one of the top DSLRs at the time. And then I bought Final Cut Studio, and I was kind of already shooting video with other softwares that I kind of patched together online. But yeah, once I bought all that, I was shooting stuff for my church. I was shooting stuff for like rappers. Like I saw over 100 rap videos in the Bay Area. And I was shooting stuff for like little small businesses and things like that. And again, like video has been just interwoven throughout my life ever since that marketing class. And so, yeah, when I got in this industry, I knew that like video was still something that I could do at a high level. And I knew that content, like, again, these people who know everything, like everybody should have their own YouTube video or YouTube channel or their own podcast or where they just talk about who they are and what they do. I mean, we hear about those services where you find grandpa, you can tell he's got like 6 years to live, and you just have him just tell all of his stories. Like there's services out there that capture all that.
Yeah.
And that kind of got me thinking, okay, why isn't there something like this professionally? Why isn't there something like this for a department within a 2,000 person company? And so again, the video aspect, because it's something for me, it's easy to create. It tells a story better than photos. Like, they say a picture is 1,000 words, a video is 1,000 pictures. So the amount of information you can get from one video, like just it comes like, it blows out of the water, a picture or even text on a page. And then also, like you said, doubling down, like I would say that's the quickest way for you to get somebody to trust you versus meeting them in person or not trust you. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that mute me on LinkedIn because they're like, dude, this guy puts out way too much stuff. But that's okay because they're not my people. And that's okay.
Sure.
Like, I'd rather walk into a room where 20 people said, I don't want to talk to that guy. And they go on the other side of the room. And then everybody else is like, oh, yeah, I'll talk to that guy. Because now I know who's my people or not. Same thing with getting customers. Is like, if people unmute me or block me or unfollow or unconnect with me, that's okay because they weren't going to be customers in the first place.
Sure.
But I do know with a certain set of volume, like quality, again, going down the marketing rabbit hole, like people say, oh, I'm a quality guy. I'd rather, quality. I want to, I'm a perfectionist. I do this and that. And I say, okay, well, how did Steph Curry get good at shooting threes? He had to shoot a ton of them things, right? Shooting thousands a day for years to be able to be the Hall of Famer that he is now. And it's the same thing with content. Like, yeah, you can spend all week working on the best video and the best post. I'd rather say just post 10 times in one day and see which one bangs. And now you know which framework to replicate. Shoot 30 videos in 1 month and post them all. And you'll be surprised after that 30 days of posting once a day, you'll have your voice. You'll know how to set the right hook. How to set the right call to action at the end of it, how to close loops during your videos. And that next month, you'll be so much better of a video producer or a talking head type person because you had the reps. So I say, get your reps in, like shoot as much stuff as you can and post it. Like it's free. Like, it doesn't cost me anything to post this stuff on LinkedIn. And then if you're on the business side, like, what if you get a customer from it? Like,
Yeah.
isn't that interesting? Like, it's you put out something for free, it just took you a little bit of time, and you got a customer from it. Or even like, let's say you're on the agency side, which I feel like there's a whole delta there that like a lot of people are missing. If you're on the agency side, just talk about what you do. And I know there's like PIOs that say, "Oh, we don't want people talking to the public and media," and I have my certain beefs with them. But I say no, like this industry needs to be able to get out what they do. This industry needs to be able to get out who they serve and how they're doing it. And like, what better way than the person at a plant to just slap a GoPro on his forehead and go and fulfill a work order? Like, people want to see that. And so, and again, like I'm biased to video, but I think that's one of the ways this industry can start to beat out police, can start to beat out, fire in regards to being that frontline essential worker.
I think a lot of people I talk to when it comes to social media, whether it's video content or a regular cadence of posting or what have you, their question is like, well, how do I know it's working? Or why should I do it? Can you tell anybody who's listening what it's done for you?
Okay. Let's see. I started the Public Works podcast. I mean, my first interview is Ruben Tellez, my dude. He's out of Watsonville, California, which is interesting. I actually did a Vitendo project with him. So that's, that like that says enough in itself, right? But he was my first podcast interviewee. Super cool guy. Like, I remember I was at my in-laws house in South Lake Tahoe and I couldn't get the camera working. So we just did it audio. Like I'm staring at a black screen, he's staring at a black screen, and we're literally on the call. And I forgot what software I used for it or what microphone I had for it, but we did the podcast. I posted it. And guess what? When you go from 0 to 1 in doing something, like by 0, I wasn't a podcaster. When I posted that first podcast, I'm a podcaster, right? And so like, same thing with business. Like you put out a flyer, you get business cards, you take one order, you're in business. You're a businessman. Like a lot of people discredit just going from 0 to 1 and being that person that they want to be. And I say, like, if you want to create content, like put out a piece of content and now you are a content creator. And since you now are a content creator, what does that mean? You're going to create more content versus when you were not a content creator. And so I say, like, just get that 0 to 1. My advice for somebody who's first starting is shoot 10 videos, post them all, and don't check for 10 days. Because a lot of people, they want to hover over that first one and go, oh my gosh, it's not getting clicks. Like, oh, I'm not getting any comments, or it's got this many impressions, but nobody's interacting. Oh, let me take it down. It's not working. It's not working. Like, no. First of all, you can't just show up to everybody's been to those networking events. You can't just show up to an event and say, I do this and that and this and that. And people are going to like do business with you. You got to keep showing up. Like, you can't just go to one conference and make $1 trillion. They got to know that you're going to be in the industry for a while. They got to know you're playing the long-term game. They got to know you're going to be here next year and you're not just going to take the money and run. It's the same thing with content. Like these algorithms from these social media platforms, they want to know that you're going to continue showing up. Shoot 10 videos, schedule them for the next 10 days. Don't check them. You just post them. And then after 10 days, you post 10 more. And then do that 3 times where you got 30 videos up and you'd be surprised. Like, come on, Paul. In our industry, if you post 10 videos on one topic in water, guess what? You are automatically in the top 1% of people or thought leaders on that topic. Because the people who are supposed to be thought leaders, they only go to conferences and talk. They don't shoot content and put it out for other people to disseminate. They put it on a white paper or behind some silly paywall that nobody can access. But you can literally post it on LinkedIn, post it on YouTube, and you are in the top 1% of people talking about it. I spoke 7 times this year already. Who is Joseph to be speaking 7 times in the public utility industry? You know what I'm saying? And that's just all from creating content. 12 times last year, 11 times the year before that. Like, if you had asked me 4 years ago when I first got in the industry, I could walk through a conference and nobody knew me. I didn't know anybody. But now I can't get 38 seconds from somebody going, oh, hey, you're that one guy, or hey, you do this or that. And so the person who's sitting there, they're listening to this conversation, they're going, man, I really want to create. I would say just post it and just ghost it. Like, just post it, put it out there.
Yep.
Don't look at it for that amount of time and then come back and do it again. It's the same thing with getting better at anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and then the results will show.
What are some signs I should look for if I'm, particularly if I'm a business in this industry and I want to start shooting my own content or posting my own content? What are some signs I should look for that tells me things are going in the right direction?
That's like, I don't want to go with vanity metrics like likes or people connecting with you from there. I'd say I can give you kind of my experience is when I started posting consistently on LinkedIn, the people in my local network, like I'm a part of APWA. It's a national association, but we have an Arizona chapter. AZ Water is the local chapter, the Arizona chapter of the AWWA, the national one. And once you start posting on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, the people locally who you see at these, it could be a Tuesday night mixer or a happy hour or something. They go, "Hey, I saw your post," or "Hey, I saw you talking about this or that." And like, that's that canary in a coal mine of like, people are seeing this stuff. They might not engage on it. They might not click it or like it or comment, but people are watching. People are seeing it. And I would say that's one of those early indicators of like, this thing is working. Because again, like, don't worry about how many likes you get or how many hearts or hands it gets. Just worry about if it's getting out there or not. And like, you'd be surprised how many people will come up to you and go, I like that. It's like for you, like you connected with, I think somehow we got connected. You had you put out an offer of like, give me your email address and I'll send you 5 tips on like increasing your business in the water industry or marketing or something like that. And I'm like, that's unique. I'm going to click that. So of course I gave you my email address and I got the 5 days worth of content, but again, like now, and then we reached out for a call and I'm like, of course I'll take Paul's call. Of course. We had a great first call. Now we're on a podcast. And like, again, like that's kind of the power of posting and just putting yourself out there because you never know who's watching. Again, there's all these stages that I get on aren't from people loving Joseph Blackman. They're just like, oh, this guy's doing a great thing in the industry. We got to hear more of what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's why I tend to, from my side, look at impressions. I just want to know this stuff's getting out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like people have seen it.
Yeah.
Impressions, probably the top 10% are going to heart it or thumbs up or whatever. But that to me is not my intrinsic motivator for knowing whether it's successful or not. It's just, what's the reach?
Even impressions, like the more you post in a day, and I can only speak to LinkedIn right now, the more LinkedIn is gonna, because you start, okay, so in social media, like let's say I post 10 times one day, right? It's not going to show my 10 posts to Paul. It's going to show one of those posts to Paul and then one of those posts to Susie and one of those posts to Johnny. So like you post 10 times, that post will find its own people to go. And so my impressions are relatively low, like 300, 500, sometimes 700, so it's 21,000 connections or followers. And I still only have 300 impressions, 500, 700 impressions. But if I were to scale it back and only do one text post every other day, now I'm getting the 1,500, the 3,000 impressions, because LinkedIn is like, okay, well, I'm going to serve this to more and more people to not fatigue you on their timeline. My thing is, I don't care. Like, I just want to keep putting out more stuff because again, the more lines you put in the water, the more potential fish you're going to catch. And so I don't care if it gets suppressed, because out of the different people it pays my multiple posts out to, somebody will engage with that, and then somebody else will see that, and then bada bing, bada boom from there. So impressions are solid because you want to know that it's getting out there. And then to be honest, impressions are great because you put in the right hook. Right? You put in the right hook. When somebody clicks see more, that shows dwell time. Dwell time is huge. Dwell time means the length amount of time as somebody is lingering over your post on their timeline. If LinkedIn sees a whole bunch of dwell time, it's going to give it to another 10% of your market. And it's going to give it to another 10%. And it's going to give it to another 10%. So you want to keep that dwell time as high as possible. And that's why captions are great in video, because it increases the dwell time. You put a text hook on there where it says something juicy, and then you put your captions because people are reading it. Nobody's listening to stuff audio, never at home or even at anywhere. Never am I listening to a LinkedIn video, the actual audio, never, or who does that? You know what I'm saying? We're all in an office, or we're working at home, or we're in public or something. No, nobody's doing that. So if you don't put captions on it, I'm scrolling right past it. And so, sorry, I don't want to keep going into the nitty gritty on it, but
that's all great stuff. I mean, from a CMO side, I can't help but, that's what I am. So I can't help but look at things that way.
Yeah.
I want to know, if I'm running a lot, or if I'm posting a lot, or what have you, I want to know that it's working, right? So I really love looking at growth over time.
Yeah.
And I really like cumulative impressions because, like you said, I might put out 10 posts, but are my impressions this month more than they were a year ago this month?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, my system is working.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking at ROI,
Yeah.
well, it didn't cost me anything but some time to do all this.
Right.
So if one person says yes in the course of a year, pays for all my hard work.
And what do you tell those CMOs who are with the company and they bring you on as a fractional and they say, hey, Paul, we tried social in the past, we made some posts, and you look and go, okay, you guys did post some stuff, but we don't feel like it worked. What are you going to do differently to make our post work? Like, what's kind of your go-to? Because I know what I would say.
Well, my answer, like generally speaking, is always to niche down. If you don't know who you're talking to and you don't know their problems, it's not going to resonate. Like, I'm not even talking about AI slop. I'm talking particularly to someone in North America who runs a wastewater treatment plant that has this problem. So if I'm speaking in a way that's addressing that problem, it's gonna resonate with those people. And if you're just looking for likes, that's probably not going to be your success metric.
I see so much in our industry. People just talk about their solution. It's like, here's my solution, here's my solution, here's my solution. I'm like, no, dude, talk about their problem. They are the hero in your story, in their story. Make them the hero. Don't talk about you being the hero. Make them the hero.
I saw a LinkedIn post the other day that was about this exact thing. And they were comparing to how Nike goes to market.
Okay.
And it was a post meant for, comedic purposes, but it was like, what if Nike posted in a B2B way? It would say, our foam delivers 3% more return on every running strike than the next best competitor. But no, they tell you just do it. Or they tell you, get up, do the workout, you can do it. And there's a difference there in messaging about the solution and about the person you'll become or the organization you'll become if you use this thing.
That's right. That's so right.
I've heard you say, I don't remember where I read this or heard this, but you said to make it easy for someone to creep on you. Tell me what that means.
Forgot what book I read that from. I read a ton of business books, personal development books, marketing stuff. Be creepable. So you meet somebody, you were single one time, Paul. Come on now. You met some nice lady at an event. You get her name. You probably just Google her because in a professional environment, you probably could find out what company they work for. And then you'll find their Facebook. Then you'll find their Instagram. And you might find their Pinterest. So like, you want to creep on people who you might want to do business with or spend the rest of your life with. So we creep on everybody, whether it's somebody I'm about to start a podcast with or like a podcast interview with, or somebody I'm about to take out to lunch. We just want to see what they're about. Like, do they have a dog? Do they have kids? Do they go spelunking versus skydiving? Like we want to be able to creep on these people and kind of, and know who they are. And I say, be creepable. Like, probably one of the most underused pieces of real estate is the email signature. What do we put down there? Best Paul, or we put best and then like company and then company link. Like, what if you just put an explainer video for your product? What if you made like, Paul's 10 tips to running your first 5K and like in your email signature? Like, I'd click that. Like, what's this Paul guy talking about 5Ks in the water industry? Like, and again, these things are little things you can do to differentiate yourself from everybody else, and then allow somebody to go deeper. Because we're on what do they say? The average worker works 3.5 hours worth of billable work a day. So like, not a lot of us are doing productive work for 8-9 hours a day while we're at work. And so a lot of time we're just, messing around. We're just, going down rabbit holes online. And I say, let them go down your rabbit hole. Let them click on, your links. Let them find your Instagram. Let them find your Facebook. Let them find, what you're passionate about. Start a blog, start a podcast. Let people go deeper before they have to talk to you the next time, because that's what people want to do. They want to know who they're going to be interacting with in the future.
Thank goodness my dating days predate that whole thing.
For sure. I'm sure you asked around that same thing.
Before we wrap up, I do want to ask you a little bit about the future.
Yeah.
So your newest piece is Public Works AI.
Yeah.
Firstly, can you tell me a little bit about that and what it is? And I'm also really interested at the utility operator's response to that, and if that's something people like, if that's something anyone even comments about. But
Yeah.
tell me what it is, what the response has been, and where do you think this is headed?
Well, Public Works AI, that was I figured out how to do a chat bot. So I'm like, you know what? This can be my industry offering. I'm a firm believer that competence breeds confidence, meaning if you know something, you're going to be more likely to raise your hand and to actually do it. If it's, the bottom of the ninth, you're the next batter up, you're going to be more likely to, to take the plate without the nervous energy because you've already hit a homer in that game and you got a pretty good batting average so far. And so that's the same thing with operators, is that if they know where to find the information, they know where to Google that acronym or the nomenclature or the verbiage that they might not have known the day before. If they can find that in their back pocket through Public Works AI, that's a win in my book. And, I can see what questions are asked, and it's a lot of math. Like, I'm not the best at math, but if I need to figure out how many gallons of water is in a 6-inch pipe and it's 300 feet of it, like, and I can't do that math in my head. I can't even do it on paper. So if I can ask a chatbot that question and get an answer, like now again, I can show up to that job site with my chest out versus having to ask the boss, like, hey, will this vac truck get all this water out of this pipe? And so again, with Public Works AI, I'm just trying to enable those who, again, want the knowledge from the people who have it, which, I mean, I fed Public Works AI with probably 300 of the industry canonical documents. So it's not like it's pulling it just from Google. Like I found all the pieces of information that, like, whether they had to take their test or like the industry standard stuff, and I fed it into the chat bot. So that's where it pulls the information from. And it's always fun when I'll do my talks and I'll put a QR code up on the screen and say, see if you can stump this chat bot. And people ask a question, I'll say, what'd you get? He's like, I asked this question and it actually gave me a really good answer. And so people, again, it gets conversations every day. I wish it a little bit more like all day, every day, but it gets daily conversations, which is great. You asked about pushback. So I do think that there are other AI products, AI services coming out, and I would say they're force feeding them to operators, saying, hey, we've got no industry wants somebody from outside the industry to come into their industry and say, you're doing it wrong. Nobody wants that. Like, I don't want you to come in my house and say, hey, you're loading the dishwasher wrong. I'll be like, dude, get out of my house, right? So this is how we load the dishwasher, right? It's the same thing in our industry. Like these companies that drop into it and say, hey, we got the perfect thing for you. It's going to fix all your problems. And like the guys, like kind of what we're talking about, you don't even know my problem. You don't even know what I'm dealing with. And so that's where I come in and say, hey, this is an industry offering. It's free. It's something that you can have in your back pocket and ask it all the questions that you want. The more questions you ask it, the better it gets trained. The more things I feed into it, because I'm like, oh, more people are disgruntled with this kind of answer. Let me change it up a little bit. So yeah, I mean, we all know AI is the future. Will the AI take a operator's job? No, but I do think AI will help that operator be more efficient. And again, getting a math question answered, or getting what did that trainer say on that one day? Now he can Google, or now he can look it up in the chat bot and get the question answered.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
What is one thing, if anything, from this conversation that you would want a water operator to hear and to kind of take away?
Kind of going back in the line of like, yes, we know that the more information that you personally have makes you more valuable on your job site, in your utility, in your department. If you were really about this life and about this industry, you wouldn't be afraid of disseminating that knowledge and getting it across to other people. We all know those people who feel like that they don't want to teach anybody because it makes them less valuable. And I say I understand that standpoint. I understand how corporate culture works, and I understand how, when private equity gets a hold of something, they say, hey, do we need this guy? He's making way too much money, and like what he knows, everybody else can know. So I understand that aspect. But I do think that the world will be a better place if we do democratize that knowledge. So don't be afraid of, again, starting your own YouTube channel. If you're an operator out there right now and you want to start your own YouTube channel, want to start creating content, please hit me up. I'd love to help you get started. More so just put that battery in your back and saying, do it. Because most of you know how to do it, but you just haven't taken that first step. So hit me up. I'd love to talk to you more about it. And then also, like, if you're a supervisor, if you look at your crew and you see that you're facing a lot of retirements coming up, and you're finding a new crop of employees, and you're like, man, I wish they knew that what everybody else knows, hit me up. Let's talk about it.
Awesome. Well, you seem like a super busy guy. Tell us what's up next for you. This is plug time. So tell us where we can get a hold of you and where maybe we can see you in person coming up soon.
I mean, of course, hit me up for Vitendo. I mean, that helps keep me busy. I'd say tactically, next for me, I'm going to ACE, right? And so if you ever see whatever I do at these trade shows, I shoot videos of the vendor, like in the expo hall, and I ask them who they are, what they do, and all that fun stuff. I think I'm going to go more so at this ACE to kind of adding value in a different way. And I would say I'm eager to see the response rate or the response from it, because a lot of people repost and reshare the original videos because their company has to do with it. I mean, it has to do with their company and what they sell. I just want people to give advice. Again, my thing is getting knowledge from the people who have it, the people who want it. So I'm gonna tweak some things at ACE, try some different things out. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in just blocking and tackling, just like, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, just one foot in front of the other. Done are the days where I'm trying to throw Hail Marys and change everything overnight. I feel like if you can block, if you can tackle, you're gonna win the game. That's all I'm here to do.
Well, if you have a 20, 30, or 40-year operator who's about to retire and you need to get all that stuff out of their head, Joseph's your guy. Joseph, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me on, Paul.